So, this is the brave new world of international publishing. We only have 30 minutes for this conversation, so to give some context, I've got a couple of slides to set the stage here. The old model of business was brand-led, print-based, and generally the licensor was in charge. The new model is much more free-form. It's often digitally led. Content has become much more important. Business models are also important. And thankfully, at the end of the day, there are the multiple revenue sources. So we've got a panel here of people with diverse backgrounds to talk about this. And these are some of the opportunities and issues that we're going to talk about in this conversation. So, to my immediate left is Alexander Broch, who is Director of International Business at Springer. He's a digital native, got out of college and studied information technology, and started his career at Springer doing the initial websites and apps for the men's group. He replaces Hans Hamer, who was on your program. Hans was unfortunately detained because of the Volkswagen scandal back in Germany, and I'm assuming that he's not implicated in the scandal, but it had to do perhaps with some advertising issues. Next to Hans is David Woodley, who's the International MD of Time Out Group. David has a background in finance and telecom. He came over to Time Out from Vodacom, and he's charged with re-engineering a very successful global print brand into digital. Mike Lovell is next to David. Mike is the Director of Investor Relations International at Meredith Corporation, one of the leading publishing and media groups in America. He's a print journalist by background, and now he's helping to shape Meredith into one of the most progressive media groups in the world through various digital innovations, international development, and acquisitions. And finally, Julie Hansen, President of Business Insider, the only digital native company on the panel. Julie herself is a digital native, but worked at a number of legacy media groups, including Time Inc., Condé Nast, and CBS. So Alex, let me start with you first. You head up a number of venerable print brands at Springer. Auto Build, Computer Build. Are you finding that print is still interesting when you explore opportunities around the world?
Yeah, we definitely do. So it's, although we're in a process where we do receive really pure interest in going digital without a print magazine, but especially in the, well, for us, smaller countries of Eastern Europe, for these partners, print is still very reliable and very interesting thing that they're investing in.
Does it lead or does it follow? Is digital becoming much more important?
At the moment, it's still print leads, but I think it's going to change really. So.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mike, at Meredith? Are you still finding that people are interested in Better Homes and Gardens and Parents and Shape as print brands?
Yeah, I think it depends on the market, John. In the last 6 months, we launched print versions of Parents and Shape in Romania. And we also launched a digital-first edition of agriculture brand we have called Successful Farming in Brazil. So it just depends on the market. I think having digital as a strong business gives more optionality for what may work in a certain market.
Is print most important for branding, in your view?
No. Print is very good at branding, but digital also has its advantages. In the case of Brazil with Successful Farming, we're using it to build a database so that we can communicate directly to the managers at farms, and distribution in rural Brazil can be a challenge with a print product. It would cost a lot of money to try to build that database. So lead digital, get the database, and then hopefully come around maybe in a year or so with a print product.
Okay. David, you've taken a print brand that's been very successful around the world. I think you had at one point 40 editions, roughly, cities around the world. And now you're changing the essential nature of what timeout is into something that's digital. I think the word or term you used is platform as a service.
Yep.
So how are you finding your old partners reacting to this change, and what are the opportunities, or how are new partners reacting to it, this so-called timeout in a box?
Sure. So I think we have a fairly broad church in terms of our partners, from very advanced markets to more developing markets. Print is still very big for us, let's be very clear. I'd echo the point I think that Mike makes there for sure. While we are digital first and mobile first, which for us is very important, nonetheless we have launches that are digital and print. So we do appeal with our portfolio to still a very broad range of markets. I think one thing I'd say is that necessity is the mother of invention, and many of our markets have been suffering in terms of print. It isn't as buoyant as it once was, and therefore their appetite to embrace a digital future has been, let's just say they've come to the party with a little bit more willingness than perhaps they may have a few years ago. So I've seen in the last 18 months a tidal wave of demand now for us to try and meet in terms of going digital. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fair to say it's taken time out itself a little while to come up with the right platform and product suite to meet demands of our customers worldwide. So I think the two things have sort of come together and play well with each other.
And a major selling point to partners is that you've essentially invented the platform, and they don't have to put the money into
That's
investing
correct.
it.
So the develop once, deploy many times philosophy for us is a way of working internally. What that means is it's never cookie cutter, or the other analogy people use is plug and play. I don't believe in that. That's not the case, but certainly it's scalable. So we can now, for this year, for the first time we did Japanese and Korean, so we're now in 7 languages, non-Latin scripts, and we can typically deploy it pretty damn quickly into a new field market. So Korea was, I think, 5 months from contract signature to launch. They've gone digital only with a print product. So I think now the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. We've got a deployment in many cases. We've got a fairly robust system to deploy that, and the product is scalable.
Okay. Julie,
John.
you're riding a rocket ship of a brand, both domestically in the U.S. and internationally now. 4 current licenses, 3 about to launch. To date, most of your deals have been brand, content, and a feed, as opposed to the platform. Companies have asked you about the platform. You now have a business in the UK. What are your plans for using the platform as part of the licensing proposition?
We'll see, actually. We have our first, in order to create our UK site, we had to do a lot of tech work to make the platform leverageable among multiple sites, and then we subsequently launched a new site, Tech Insider, over the summer. So now we have a technology solution that, one content management system supports multiple websites. And we have a test pilot going on, actually, with our new owners, Axel Springer, our new almost owner. The deal's not closed yet. And we'll be creating Business Insider Deutschland using our technology, but their editors will be running it. And it's a brave experiment. But I think it probably is the future. So many of our licenses, even when it's in local language, this won't be the case for every market, but in many of the markets, even where the content will be created by the partner in local language, there's often great utility in having the English language content on the site as well. And being able to use our platform to basically deliver our content to all of our sites is better than relying on outputting and re-ingesting the same content through a feed. So we think that if this experiment goes well, we'll repeat it with future partners.
Mike, do you have any comments about what you're doing at Meredith with regard to platforms? Because this issue comes up in our conversations with a lot of partners. They actually want platforms as part of the deal.
Some of them do, and in the case of All Recipes, we do have a platform that it was built for international partners and can handle all of the different differences in languages. Other of our brands, we do rely on the partner to create the platform. Frankly, I wish that we had a common platform for parents, similar to All Recipes, for example, because it would provide for a common common branding experience, I think it would help the licensees quite a bit.
Okay. Alex, you have any examples from Springer about on this particular topic?
Yeah, we don't have that, especially for our biggest brand, Out to Build. We don't have that multinational platform at the moment, but we are really thinking to go there because it would, especially for us and for smaller partners, would just benefit them because they could directly and easily access our content, and we would have a shared media database that would be based on our current CMS system that would have a lot of benefits that we could profit and the partner could profit from. So this is definitely something that we're just developing at the moment.
Okay, so there's a consensus that maybe technology is something that becomes a valuable asset going forward.
Well, you know why, John? Because it's not just about the convenience of the partner, which is certainly a factor, but it's that we believe part of what makes Business Insider great is actually the platform. We call it Viking. They have to have names now. And Viking is built for speed, it's built for social distribution, it has baked in analytics, all the things that we believe our editors need to make a great website, we can then share with our partners. And so, like, for example, the built-in analytics are all about telling our team in real time what's working. That headline is a dog, fix it, take it down. You know, that's what the real-time analytics do for us. And we think if partners aren't able to use those same types of tools, they won't make a product that's as good. So we didn't start out that way because, frankly, the licensing business sort of started before we were ready technically. But I do think going forward, there's a lot to be gained from it, and I hope it's what we'll do going forward. And I think if you have that belief that your platform is actually a strategic asset and helps to define your brand or is built to support your brand, then it really makes sense to take the platform to your partners along with the content and the brand.
Great, thanks. Mike, Meredith has a huge brand portfolio targeting women of all ages on various platforms, offline, online, books. You've got a huge library of evergreen content, text, images, and videos. All your relationships with advertisers, got a number of services businesses that you now have started or acquired. Do you have an overall strategy on how you're going to deploy these around the world?
Brand by brand, yes, definitely. And when we usually start a conversation with a potential partner, rather than spend a half hour trying to help them understand Meredith's portfolio, usually I'll start the conversation by asking them their top 3 or top 5 strategic priorities, because chances are we have something, if they have an interest in reaching adult women, chances are we have something that could fit into their portfolio. Perfect example is we've got a great partner, probably our best partner in Australia, Pacific, and they have a bridal magazine. Meredith recently bought a digital wedding planning tool called My Wedding, and so we're working with them to launch that tool in Australia, and it will support their magazine, and they're planning to rebrand their magazine My Wedding to support the digital tool. So, so that's the way I start the conversation. There are some instances, and you know this, John, where maybe there's a region of the world where we're able to take all of our assets, which we have in the US, very siloed into brands, and basically strip the content out of it and rebrand it as a woman's portal, or creating some kind of women-oriented media company that may be branded something completely different, something local, but we're able to take the content and create verticals for parenting, home, food, etc.
Yeah, so what you're saying is essentially the partners overseas are no more involved in determining what they end up doing, as opposed to the old model, which was more pushing out the brand into a marketplace.
I think that's absolutely true, and in the case of Meredith, I don't know about your brands, a lot of our advertising clients operate globally, like Procter & Gamble, but they do it through brands that are local. So for us, we don't really realize an economy of scale in helping our advertising partners deliver ads. So we have to go at it from the consumer side, and I think the local partner we look to for that knowledge of the market.
Okay. Julie, on the issue of partners, there are lots of new players out in the field. Back in the old days, you could just come up with your database of publishers, big and small, and that's who you'd go to. Now you have digital native companies, you have marketing agencies, you have entrepreneurs, you have legacy publishers, and you've got partners from both sides or all sides. How do you determine who you want to partner with in a market?
It's a great question because it really is very nuanced. There's a well-established media company that's doing a good job in digital because we're only digital, so that's all that matters to us. Maybe they can do a great job with our brand and they'll have a strength in the market. And I think we're hopeful that our French partner, that applies. You know, they're a traditional print publisher with 3 strong properties in the business space and a firm commitment to digital, and you know, it's our belief that they'll do well in France with our brand. And then in other markets, the benefit of being in a well-established player just didn't overcome the benefits of being a digital pure play that knows how to do digital, that's smart about publishing content. So our Australian licensee is now part of Fairfax, but started out as an independent company and just so digitally smart, did an amazing job with the brand from day one to where, you know, like we would have given them the brand for free because they were giving us so much great Australian content in return. Just kidding. But, you know, it became a 2-way thing rather than a 1-way brand license, which works out great for them because the more Australian content we have, the more Australian eyeballs we attract, which makes their site bigger. So they took the traffic from like about 500,000 when we licensed the site. They're up to about 4 million. It's a country of 25 million. Like, they're doing incredibly well. They're the #1 business publication in Australia within 6 months. And you know, it didn't matter that in a media market where there are really only 3 big publishers, they weren't one of them. It didn't matter. They just crushed it. And now they are part of one of those big 3. So we really do look at it market by market and try to figure out in each market the strengths and weaknesses of the various players, and is there a strong digital startup that will be really savvy with digital publishing, or is it a market where it's really just too hard even for that new entrant to break in, let alone our brand to break in with them. So it's good we have a good licensing agent.
But good journalism still is at the heart of what you do. So oftentimes the legacy media group will have the best journalists.
Maybe, but you know, I don't know that we feel, I mean, you know, we believe that the reason Business Insider has been so successful in terms of drawing a large audience is that we publish digital first. We're not trying to retrofit any other piece of content. We love digital. And so if you analyze the content on Business Insider, you know, there's plenty of traditional content formats. There's a text-based post, there are image-based articles, there are interviews, but there are animated GIFs, and there are embeds of social media, and there are posts with 2 sentences, and there are posts with 21,000 words. And we can do all of those things in digital because it's the greatest medium ever invented for storytelling. That's what we believe. So we have seen often that if we can find a partner who shares our belief in the power of digital and our excitement about what digital publishing means, that they can train the next generation of journalists just as well as a journalist to be successful in the medium as well as a classically trained journalist. But so can a classically trained journalist do a great job of digital publishing if they embrace it.
Okay. David, any comment on this?
I think to build on Julie's point there, that sort of chimed with me, it's very much, for digital for us, is very much a 2-way street. And therefore you have a large network, and I think our local relationships, I think Mike, you touched on this, extremely important for us, especially in content and commerce, because they're engaging with that local audience, be it business in B2B or B2C in terms of customers, end users. And for us to access that best of breed local knowledge, but also to the two-way street I'm talking about is the sharing of sort of best practice and knowledge and experience. And the analogy I use sometimes is I give people a Ferrari, but I also give them the keys to drive the Ferrari. And for us, we are doing a lot of work in our two main markets of London and New York, which we package up and share regularly through webinars and a portal that our franchisees, not licensees I call them, actually access. So it's almost turbocharging the traditional media license approach to more of a franchising approach, which in a digital world for us means with the pace of change, the fact that you can influence your customers so quickly and you have to learn from that and listen to your customers is about the knowledge, it's about the how as well as the what. So it's very much a two-way street.
Okay.
You know what's really important, if I can just add something, is passion and excitement and enthusiasm for brands and for the relationship. And so if you're not seeing that or kind of lukewarm, it's a big red flag for me. Because you're getting into a licensing relationship, you're not marrying these people, but you're dating pretty seriously. It may lead to a marriage at some time down the road, and you want to date somebody that's really enthusiastic.
Good advice.
I think Julie and Alex can attest to that, because that became a marriage at some point.
Metaphorically.
Yeah. So Alex, at Springer, I know that you integrate some of your marketplaces and e-commerce platforms into your magazine brands, like with AutoBuild you were telling me, or Hans was telling me. Is that something you try and leverage or can leverage into other markets as you expand the brand?
Well, for the first attempt that we really made there was the car broker that we launched, a joint venture with the Car Rental Sixth, and that really worked quite well for us because we became the leading online car broker in Germany in terms of new car sales. And for the moment, that is something, at least in this case, that worked. So we definitely seek to further develop models like this, because it just it has a connection to the brand. It strengthens the whole idea of the brand to get value to the reader or to the user, and therefore this is just fits perfectly for us. So
But can you leverage that relationship with Sixt into other markets, or are you just sharing that know-how with a partner somewhere else?
At the moment, we're just sharing that knowledge, but that know-how that we have. But as Sixt is, I can't tell you that we've got comparable platforms in planning with different partners, but the idea should work. So.
Okay. I think we're running up against our time barrier here, so maybe I'll just ask everybody what's trending for everybody in this business, cross-border licensing business, starting with you, Alex.
For us, clearly video is the topic of the moment, because the content itself just really, it's just perfect for us, because you cannot better transport the idea of the passion of cars, or the nice idea of cars with video content, because you just see all the dynamics and you hear the sound. So that is becoming more and more interesting for us, because we use videos in all sorts of different ways and on our different platforms. And also the requests by our licensees become stronger and stronger, and they really value the video content that we produce. So that is.
So you have a studio that produces this content for your sites, and
we do. We've got an own video team that produces all the video for us. We are in the lucky position that we could launch our free TV program last year due to the cooperation with N24. But still, the web TV is very important for us, because that is a very good way to monetize that whole thing, and we really have a clear process on how to use these videos. So they are with a free TV, and you can access this via our paid app first, because that is the best way, the premium content for us to monetize it. Then it goes straight to our website, because that is the next step to ideally monetize it. Then the last step really becomes YouTube, because that is, it's still monetized, but it's not as good as the other models before. So that is the clear structure, how we use that.
great. David, what's trending for you?
I think a couple of things for us really. Blogging is very big, and I'll just define that in a second, and commerce, e-commerce. So we've given the tools to many of our franchisees, our licensees. Now that they've got it, they want to make money from it. They want to engage their audience. And we have a very simple model, discover, book, share. I think the book and share are the two focus areas for us. Discover is time out, hopefully, with its 48-year heritage, you've heard of it at least. But I think the how you monetize that for us, and the questions we're being asked is how we do that. So we've got a laser-like focus on e-commerce, and then a blogging platform as well. So we're building that up to make sure that we can multiply, or get the multiplier effect working effectively across the whole network. So we're a city-based application, and that's perfect because people typically travel a lot between those cities, and they expect a consistent look and feel. We were talking, Mike, earlier about your trip recently to London. And if you want to aspire to be a global brand as we do, you've got to leverage that, but that's not enough. That network, that audience, you've got to give people something that they want, they engage with, and they can benefit from. And B2B, in terms of customers, you've got to make sure that your business customers can actually make some money from that. So those are probably two things.
Are you sharing lots of content and services in the network?
Yeah, we are. And we have a key focus really on what we call our global content. So things like films and stuff is very key for us. But again, it's local content as well. So we recently did a deal with our Tokyo and London offices where we did a global sort of a deal where we packaged up the content from Japan, and we actually had our London magazine and website talk about that content in a sort of mutual deal. So it's just starting, I think, to leverage really the global effects of having that network.
Great. Mike?
I echo wholeheartedly what both my peers said. Video and social expertise are trending. But I think if I just take a step back and really think, what's more important today than it was a year ago is sharing information quickly and frequently between our partners. And it may be the expertise of having a studio in-house and how fast you can produce videos and which ones are working. It might be social stuff that's working and trending. It might be, and this is always in style, is new marketing ideas and new solutions for advertising clients. Often they're not the same when they get applied in China or someplace else, but our partners are smart and creative, and they can innovate them. But wherever the idea starts, the important thing is to share it.
Yeah, we may not have time for this, but I was going to ask, because what Meredith has done has been a model for a lot of publishing companies, sort of re-engineering the business and being much more marketing services oriented. And very quickly, is there any kind of a model that you think Meredith could export to a partner with that? Whether it's the relationships or... Sure. And it's, more than anything, it starts with education and communication, explaining how it works in the U.S. There are some elements to the U.S. market, I think, that are not unique, but they're not the same as the rest of the world. Something that I've been noodling around in my head for the last 6 months or so, but haven't figured out, so I'm open to ideas if you have solutions to this. We've got a subscription-driven business model in the U.S., and at Meredith in particular, we really focus on it. About 90% or so of our magazines are distributed via subscription, and that's not the same in most countries around the world. And so we've got this long history of collecting data. We know a lot about the homeowner. We know a lot about what she loves to do and how she lives her life. The internet, I think, is giving publishers in other countries the opportunity to start building this data, which we all know. But the partners don't always have that culture of understanding how to collect it and how to sift through it and sort it. So I think this is a big opportunity in the next 3 to 5 years, helping them do this. Great. Julie?
Pretty much everything that we've all said. Video, social, sharing is not only ideas, but for us, content, trying to create kind of a global pool of content among our licensed partners. We certainly see a lot of emphasis and interest in native ads, which is an ad format that's well established in the US, not yet in the UK, dominant in Asia, so a lot of variety of experience about that, but universally interest in that ad format.
Are you getting requests for global native ad campaigns, out of curiosity?
It's just funny, in the US, you get no global requests. And I didn't think you did anywhere, actually, but now that we have a UK O&O, there's lots of global things that happen in the rest of the world. It's interesting. So no, native, though, tends to fly in the face of that, because often a brand will then want to customize the messaging by country. So it's harder to scale globally. But just interest in that format, do we support it, how do we view it, what are our norms about labeling, just really kind of interest in understanding that tool, and that's important to us because we think it's a really good solution, and we want our partners to embrace it also, and we want to choose partners who understand that that's a brand element and they need to respect that and work with that, so it becomes kind of part of the discussion.
Great. Do we have time for questions? No? Okay. Thanks to the panel for their insights here.
Thank you.